What happens when someone uses a dating app, something many of us trust, for something unthinkable? Caleb Anderson's story is haunting, not just because of the crimes, but because of how it began. Like any regular day, like anyone else. At just 25, this Michigan man turned dating apps into his trap, finding victims across state lines and leaving a trail of fear and death. But why did he do it? And how did it all come crashing down? Join us as we delve into this chilling case and its disturbing details, starting from the very beginning. Caleb Anderson grew up in Michigan, a state known for its natural beauty, but also home to individuals whose paths take dark turns. From the outside, Anderson seemed like an ordinary young man, living his life in a small town. However, beneath the surface, something far more sinister was brewing. Michigan, a place known for its friendly communities and Midwestern charm, harbored this darker side of Anderson, which his seemingly minor offenses turned into something deadly. By 2022, his life took a horrific turn as he began targeting men he met through dating apps, spiraling into a series of violent murders across multiple states. Anderson's early run-ins with the law hinted at his troubled nature. In 2019, he was convicted in the disturbing serial butt grabber case, where he assaulted random women by grabbing them in public and running away. This behavior, though alarming, was only a shadow of the horrors to come. While Michigan may have been the backdrop of his beginnings, it was clear that Anderson's inner demons knew no bounds. Caleb Anderson's story is a dark and chilling one, starting on August 1, 2022. In Michigan's quiet Iron County, Anderson's crime spree began when he attacked an 18-year-old jogger. She managed to escape, but this was just the start of his terrifying acts of violence. The following day, Anderson crossed into Wisconsin, using a dating app to lure his next victim, 65-year-old Patrick Ernst. This meeting in Green Bay quickly turned deadly, as Anderson stabbed Ernst a staggering 51 times inside his apartment. His actions were beyond brutal. Authorities found disturbing evidence showing Anderson had taken photos and videos with Ernst's body, and he even wrote Bible verses on the wall beside the corpse. So it was clear that this wasn't just murder. It was calculated and cold, a glimpse into the depths of his dangerous mind. After killing Ernst, Anderson stole his car and fled to Alabama. But the bloodshed didn't end there. On August 3, Anderson murdered again, this time 52-year-old Dwight Dixon in Alabama. Dixon's body was discovered in his home, with Anderson leaving behind his cell phone at the crime scene, a key piece of evidence that would later tie him to the murders. Following the Alabama murder, law enforcement began piecing together Anderson's movements. After Ernst's body was discovered in Green Bay, police were immediately suspicious, especially when they noticed that Ernst's car was missing. Anderson, now driving Ernst's stolen car, became the primary suspect, and the multi-state manhunt ensued. As more details emerged, authorities learned of Anderson's violent attack on the jogger just before the murders and the disturbing connection between Ernst and Anderson through the dating app. One of the most horrifying aspects of Anderson's spree was his use of everyday tools like dating apps to track down his victims. He admitted to preferring this method as it gave him easy access to find men. Investigators were able to trace his online interactions and movements from Michigan to Wisconsin and finally to Alabama. The discovery of a Bible verse written on the wall near Ernst's body added another eerie layer to the investigation. Anderson left behind both a physical and psychological mark, which only added to his disturbed mindset. Detectives found additional evidence, including a burner phone with photos and videos from the crime scene. It became evident that Anderson took a twisted pleasure in documenting his horrific acts. And so the authorities knew who was behind all these tragic murders. It was on August 3, 2022 that Anderson's crime spree came to an end when he was finally apprehended in Alabama. But the question is, how did the authorities track such a cold-blooded serial killer that had no humanity inside him? Well, U.S. Marshals and Helena police officers worked together to locate him after the stolen car was spotted entering the city. Over 20 officers, some even off-duty, mobilized to ensure Anderson's arrest, ending his violent rampage. His arrest was the conclusion of a disturbing sequence of events that left 3 states reeling from the aftermath. While his spree was short, it was vicious, and his calm demeanor during the arrest only added to the chilling nature of the crimes he committed. After his arrest, Anderson faced a series of legal battles in multiple states. His first trial took place in Alabama, where he faced capital murder charges for the brutal killing of Dwight Dixon. In a plea agreement that spared him the death penalty, Anderson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in January 2023. But his legal troubles were far from over. Speaking of which, during Caleb Anderson's trial, shocking details of his calculated behavior emerged. Authorities painted him as a cold, deliberate killer who carefully seized opportunities to act on his violent impulses. What truly shocked the courtroom was his twisted habit of documenting his murders with photos and videos. After killing Patrick Ernst, he wrote a Bible verse on the wall, Psalm 23:4, mixing brutal violence with religious references. The murder of Ernst was particularly chilling, with Anderson stabbing him 51 times. The viciousness of the attack was stark, especially since it took place in Ernst's own home, a place where anyone should feel safe. Similarly, Dwight Dixon's death followed a similar pattern of brutality. Both victims suffered at the hands of Anderson's relentless rage with no sign of remorse. Anderson's actions during and after the murders revealed a deeply disturbed mind. Not only did he commit brutal murders, but the documentation of these acts and the religious message he left behind added an even darker layer to his already horrifying behavior. The trial shed light on his psyche, and the deliberate nature of his attacks showcased the terrifying, cold-blooded nature of his crimes. In Wisconsin, Anderson was charged with the first-degree intentional homicide of Patrick Ernst. Despite initially pleading not guilty, Anderson later changed this plea to no contest in Green Bay. A no-contest plea allowed the court to convict Anderson without him admitting guilt, but it carried the same weight as a guilty verdict. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Videos, photos, and the disturbing details from the crime scene painted a picture of a calculated and violent individual. On September 24, 2024, Caleb Anderson received his second life sentence, this time for the murder of Patrick Ernst. During the trial, it became clear just how disturbed Anderson was. He reportedly told the police he had always wanted to kill someone, a chilling admission that underscores the senselessness of his actions. His life sentence in Wisconsin mirrored the one he already received in Alabama, ensuring that Anderson will never be free again. And so with 2 life sentences, Caleb Anderson will spend the rest of his days behind bars without any chance for release. His crime spree, which spanned 3 states, left a lasting impact on the victims' families and the communities affected. His use of a dating app to target his victims highlighted the darker side of technology, reminding everyone of the potential dangers that can lurk in everyday tools. With 2 life sentences now in place, Caleb Anderson will never be eligible for release. His story serves as a tragic reminder of how quickly someone can spiral into violence. What began with smaller crimes, like assaulting women in Michigan, quickly escalated into something far more sinister and deadly. Anderson's use of a dating app to find his victims also raises concerns about the risks of meeting strangers online. While apps are a common part of modern life, Anderson's story is a reminder that not everyone behind a screen has good intentions. His calculated actions and his willingness to cross state lines to commit murder shows just how dangerous he truly was. In the end, his last sentence ensures he will never harm anyone again, but the fear and pain he left behind will last forever. This tragic case raises many questions about whether things could have turned out differently. If Caleb Anderson had been incarcerated after his first conviction in 2009, could it have prevented the devastating murders? Or was he destined to commit these horrific crimes no matter what, given his disturbing mindset? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this episode. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our next in-depth investigations on Real Crime Zone. See you in our next video.